But I don't know if you guys saw my Instagram. I did have a very similar Tony Stark experience.
Yes,
my
I did.
goodness.
I'm glad you're still with us.
Yeah.
The
what
beginning
happened?
of Endgame, Tony Stark's all by himself. It's funny, I was talking to my son Jake. I go, you know the beginning of Endgame when Tony Stark's by himself? Don't spoil it for me! I'm like, that's in the commercials. Like, that's it. You see him. That was the first trailer they released where he's
Right.
alone. He grabs the Iron Man helmet. He leaves a message for Penny Potts. I was like, so anyway, like I was like stranded. It was a nightmare. I literally had like a crazy weekend adventure of nightmare after nightmare, which turned into, now you look back, it was like an incredible weekend. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like I was telling my son that at one point when he was having a little bit of a breakdown. Because like he packed up the car. We went camping. He's a Boy Scout, and there's a thing called the honor outing that they do every year, and they take the top Boy Scouts in his troop to go. And he qualified, so he got to go, and he asked me to go with him. My wife Blake was with my two other boys in Kansas City for a basketball tournament. So Jake on Friday night packed up the car. He packed up my wife's car instead of my car. So I was like, all right, I'll take her car, whatever. Nightmare from the beginning.
Oh, no.
Once we get there and it's time to set up our tent, like, I don't know if you guys ever gone camping, what you do is you put down a tarp and then you put
Yes.
the tent on top of the tarp. Well, we forgot the tarp. I was like, oh man, we forgot the tarp. I'm like, it's all right. So I'm like kicking all the pine cones out with my feet and we'll just put the tent down here. Turns out we brought the tarp. We didn't bring the tent.
Oh.
And just to give you an idea, we were 4 hours north and then 15 miles in on a dirt road.
No.
Yeah.
And there was actually a cabin on the property, and the cabin was used to train firefighters in the 1800s. So it's a cabin like is owned by the state, like, and it's in the middle of nowhere. I mean,
my gosh.
nowhere, right? I mean, it was so. I'm like, where am I going to sleep? And they had bunk. The Boy Scouts got to sleep in this one cabin with bunks. So as dad, I was like sleeping in a tent, but I didn't have a tent. So I was like, well, I'll sleep in my wife's car. She's got an SUV. I'll sleep in the car. So just to measure stuff out, I rolled down the windows a little bit to see if it was going to get hot. This is early in the day. And then the battery died in my wife's car, and I couldn't get the windows rolled up. And so people said it was going to get down to the 30s. It was going to be freezing. So I had other parents come by and put like towels over the windows and stuff for me to sleep. And then when I set up my breathing machine, because I have a breathing machine that I need to sleep, I have sleep apnea. One of the cords didn't fit into the breathing machine, and it kept slipping out. So I had a doctor who was there. His name is Dr. Eng. His surgical skills, he took duct tape and duct taped the thing together.
That's legit.
But okay, so how does that run if you're not running it off a battery, off a car battery?
No, I have a portable battery for my breathing machine.
Oh, okay.
But I'm in this car.
That you pack.
Yeah, yeah. Well, hell yeah, because I die without that.
his life.
So then the car. So the next morning, they're like, well, the guys are like, we got jumper cables. We got jumper cables. All these guys got jumper cables. They're men. They're prepared. Boy Scouts be prepared. So this one guy had like a Porsche SUV. He pulls up next to my wife's car, and they put the battery chargers on. I don't know how to do any of that, and it didn't start. And it's the weirdest thing. They put another car, and it didn't start. So this guy's got a huge F-150, and he's like, let me try mine. So he used his car, and his battery started the car. And it was like, oh, and then I'm driving to the Grand Canyon, to the train station, and not all the stuff works in the car. I've never had that happen before.
Oh, no.
Like
Oh, it's like an energy reserve or something
the
like
center
that, right?
console didn't turn on. Like we couldn't charge phones. We couldn't do anything like that. So at one point, I was out in the middle of the field, and I had a little bit of battery left. I had 18% battery left, and I'm like, I'm leaving my Tony Stark message to my wife right now in case I'm never found again. And I'm like, I hit the little button. I'm
How
just all alone.
stressful.
It was very stressful because when you don't have battery, then I made it to the train station, and then I thought it's a 3-hour train ride to the Grand Canyon and a 3-hour train back. And so that's 6 hours. And I thought 6 hours, I'll start the car. Is it going to start when I get back? And it did, thank God.
Oh.
Then I was driving home, and I didn't get home until like 9:30 last night. But it was like, the car would make a weird noise. It was shit. Like someone's taking the car today. I'm over that car. What a nightmare.
Oh my God.
And then we hiked the Grand Canyon, right? So we get to the Grand Canyon, and the Boy Scouts go do their separate things, right? And I'm like, Jake and I grab something to eat, and let's go look at the Grand Canyon. We go look at the Grand Canyon. And now it's an ongoing joke with like the movie Vacation. You look at it, and you're like, done. It's like we look at it, literally, we're done. There's 3 hours left before the train leaves. There's no Uber, no Lyft up there. I was trying to get home already. There was no Uber, there's no Lyft. There wasn't a shuttle. The shuttle went back at the same time the train did. And I was like, well, we're stuck here. I go, let's just go hiking. He's like, okay. So we start walking down the Grand Canyon to go hike down the Grand Canyon. And it's like a real thing, the Grand Canyon. You'd think there'd be a little bit more safety precaution. 12 people have died this year already.
Yeah, that's true.
Right, you keep
This
hearing
year.
about it.
Yeah.
This year they've already died. 12. Like I get if you were to say 12 people have died in the last 10 years. No, this year 12 people have fallen off the Grand Canyon, and I can see why. Because you're just going down, and it's just the Grand Canyon. You just fall 17 miles down.
They tell you
So
to be
scary.
careful. Isn't that enough?